What's up, guys? This is Blink Boy, and today I'm going to be talking about how to type people without some sort of bullshit method. And today I'm going to be focusing on just the judgment axis. So either the FETI axis or the TEFI axis of some person. So right off the bat, I want to say that the test I have devised for this is not as clean as the one I did for perception axes. And admittedly, I've not been able to test this one out as much as I would have liked. But anyway, and yeah, so generally speaking, there is some noise here. This is not a perfect mapping onto types. And I think one of the reasons why there is some noise here is because the nature of judgment is such that we can't, or at least I don't know how to, we can't isolate just a blip in consciousness the same way that you can for perception. So that's my little disclaimer. What's the actual test? So I think this really works best when you have someone who is complaining or otherwise making a negative judgment about a person, about someone else, someone who isn't them. In my experience, this is the best scenario that we can look for. But it's tough because not everyone actually complains about people. Not everyone like talks shit. So for some people, what you can try to do if this isn't something that they naturally do, you can try to like start complaining about someone who you believe they also maybe have some negative feelings toward, and you can try to kind of get them to chime in, to get them to also say the things that you're saying. So yeah, it's not perfect. Not everyone talks shit, but oh well. So what you're looking for, what this boils down to, is whether or not the person is coming from a place of shame or if they're coming from a place of disgust. So shame or disgust. And I want to be very specific about what I'm talking about here. And of course, this is going to be different whether the person is agreeable or disagreeable, just trait agreeableness or trait disagreeableness. And I want to highlight that there does seem to be a reasonable correlation with disagreeableness and having TE high in development, especially high in their stack, so being some TJ type. That being said, I definitely wouldn't use disagreeableness as a proxy for looking for TJs, because of course anyone else can be disagreeable. And I used to think that FETI was like the agreeable axis and TEFI was the disagreeable axis. Don't do that. Turns out that does not work. It's a very bad proxy. So all right, so shame and disgust. If you are listening to a disagreeable person on the TEFI axis, you will notice a sort of knee-jerk reaction to a person. Maybe you bring up this person, you're trying to goad them into criticizing this person. They may give you a very like frank knee-jerk aversion to that person. And here I'm talking about the context where the person they're complaining about is not in the room, they're not present. They may just give you this kind of knee-jerk that person, gross. You know, they might not use words like gross or disgusting, but like that's kind of the feel that it has to me. And there is kind of a frank honesty about it. I'm just like, oh, no, not that. um, and I think if they're not in the room, you will get that for both an agreeable and a disagreeable TEFI user, someone on that axis. Though if they are complaining about someone who's in the room, if they're telling a person that you know, they don't like them, or that, you know, whatever thing is wrong with them, it will also have this kind of frank honesty to it, generally speaking, and it kind of comes off as just like a you're an asshole, as just like this, like kind of like, yeah, frank thing. Um, Although for people who are agreeable, of course, if the person's in the room, they're probably not just going to say anything. And I think that is certainly true regardless of access. So if someone's just you know, not criticizing this person who's in the room, that doesn't really tell you much. So that's on the TEFI side, the disgust side of things. If the person is FETI, the way that they're going to be criticizing or judging this person is going to be coming from a place of shame, or if they're agreeable, mitigating shame. And let me talk about that. So if an FETI person is, if you got them to criticize someone who's not in the room, who's not there, they may try to be really fair-minded and like avoid passing shame onto this person. So they may say something like, oh yeah, they're not really funny, but they have these redeeming qualities. Oh, but he is nice, he lent me $20 one time. I don't know. Something like that. So there is some like fair-minded trying to mitigate people's perceptions of this person, trying to not be like, oh, and now that I said this bad thing, now it's totally fine that you have that bad image of them. So that's if they are agreeable. And I do think that's the same case if they are criticizing someone who is in the room, where they are trying to use just very careful language and try to make what they're saying land very softly on the person who is the subject of their criticism. If the FETI user is disagreeable, make no mistake, there's plenty of FETI users who are disagreeable. And so I'll again start with, if the person's not in the room, they may like, it's kind of like they're like trying to form a coalition to fix them. Like the person's broken and hey guys, let's get together and fix them. Not necessarily like form a coalition. I'm making that sound a bit more grandiose than it is maybe. And right, what their precise reaction to some person's flaw definitely has a cultural component to it. But it is like, rather than this aversion of like, ugh, gross, fuck them, it's kind of like yeah, I do get the sense that they're like, we can help this person. I don't know, I imagine this is how like interventions get started, something like that. Where, yeah, the shame component, right? I am trying to talk about how this is rooted in shame. The shame component is like, hey, social group I'm with who also know this person, like, because they're doing this like shameful thing and we all know that, let's make it better. kind of. And whether their idea of make it better is to actually help the person, or like, hey, that person's toxic, let's rule them out of our lives. That's of course up to the person, but you will see often something like that. Um, if they're if this person is disagreeable and they are criticizing someone who's in the room, um, the shame component is very direct. It is a very direct kind of shaming, kind of uh, they may still be using careful language, um, but it's careful in that they're trying to like make the person feel shamed, like, hey, don't do that, like, why are you doing that, we are all like seeing that you're doing that, like, I don't know, something like that. So yeah, this really boils down to shame on the FETI side. Again, whether that's actually shaming this person or trying to mitigate shame and trying to mitigate the image that the other people will hold in their head of this person, the object of shame, the object of the criticism. Um, and then on the TEFI side, this is, yeah, just sort of a disgust-oriented thing, where it's just kind of, there is quite a frankness to it. They're not trying to be careful with their words, and it often strikes me as like a knee-jerk aversion, just very, very quick and blunt and frank. Cool. All right. Thanks for watching.